Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another recap review of, at this point, you can say, the hit HBO original series, It. Welcome to Derry, brought to you from the Culture Collective, powered by Big Gold Belt
All right, you know
Media.
what? You get one. Fueled by or powered by. If you say both one more time,
Look,
one
that is now
one
the
more
saying.
time. You are
It
not
is the
going, you not
saying now.
going to end
That is
just
the
like
official
me.
saying
Okay.
of the Culture Collective, fueled by, powered by Big
Is
Gold Belt
it?
Media. Well, I've come up
Damn.
with it, so now it is the official.
Oh my God. You see, this is what happens. He had and just like that, and now he can't let it go. Now he gotta find a
Hey,
new
look
slogan
here. I
every
have an
show.
I have a slogan. I have not used it yet, but after this episode, I should have used it and started off and say, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody floats as we are here for another recap review of It. Welcome to Derry. Well, now let's get into my amazingly talented co-host. First up is Miss, and just like that, Miss P Valley, Miss Reasonable Doubt, Miss Run the World, Miss Harlem, the talented Amaya Desire. What is going on this evening, man?
Oh, I'm here, y'all. And this is finally an episode where I got to just breathe a little bit. I wasn't so traumatized. So thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And my other talented co-host, the youngster, the future head of the MPA, Michael Jedi Mike 7.
That stands for you said NPA, Pictures Associations.
Not
Negro
pictures
Pictures
NPA.
association.
Association.
I'm done.
As we are here to bring you, this is episode 3 of Welcome to Derry. This episode here is the one that a lot of people have been waiting for. This is explosive. It's amazing that we went back to the origins of Pennywise in this episode. Is something that is a sight to see once you do. So
Mm.
let's start right there as we are introduced from the jump to 1908. Now, this is something I brought up in the first review that Andy, who's the director and creator of this series, said the goal was to do 3 seasons. First season is 62. The second season is 35, which is also brought up a lot in this episode. And then the final season would be 1908 because that is the origin of when we get Pennywise. And
Mm-hmm.
here we're open to it as we are arriving at a carnival/freak show. And we get a young boy named Francis, who we later on finds out that Francis is the general now. But
Mm-hmm.
we get to see a very quick glimpse of Pennywise in his human form before all the chaos breaks loose as the young boy goes into the freak show and he runs into this old man creature who terrifies him and scares him out of the freak show. What did you just think? And I'm starting first with you and Maya. What did you think about the opening of this episode? The quick glance we get of the human form of Pennywise before we get to see the old man transformation.
I mean, well, first of all, I was like, is this the Ku Klux Klan? Like, what's happening right here? That triangle look hood, you know. I mean, I'm just saying, I was wondering if anybody else saw it. But, you know, I thought it was just interesting the way that they introduced him as this human form, like him showing up in this way and still being able to terrify this child. Like, I don't think it was just the physicality, right? I think it's like something eerie about him that makes him
Mhm.
uncomfortable, and it's just like, this doesn't feel right, I should get out of here. But also shout out to dad still, you know, calling their sons sissies, per usual, because, you know, hey, you should not be running out. It's not real, right? But like, it is real. But yes, no, I thought it was actually a really great opening, just showing us that, you know, like, hey, this is how he showed up before we see his form. But like, even in this body, he is very much terrifying, and he haunts you essentially.
Yeah. And Mike, what did you just think about the opening of this episode?
I called it. I called it. It was like immediately when the last episode, I was just like, Yeah, I'd like to see we get their origin, and everything. And then it's like beginning episode, Nights and Wait. I was like, oh my god, like it's just like I was getting excited, And it's like, okay, this is the part, Again, we mentioned like this episode's very palatable, like where it's like, all right, yes, there's some scary stuff in here, but it's like, okay, but I'm intrigued. You know what I mean? You got me interested, and then because you get into the history of it and stuff, and then you do like the whole playfulness. And yes, even though you're teasing Pennywise, is like you still create the atmosphere. Like again, you're not oversaturating this entire season with like, hey, there's Pennywise. No, he is here, but he's utilized strategically, right? And I felt like again going from it chapter 2 when we saw pictures from 1908 and seeing him in the suit and him walking by, we see in the peripheral vision the background, right? But that was not. I'm glad at least they had it there because I know people could be freeze frame like, hey, that's him, in the back. And then it also seeing the transition of him, I think for the first time, like again trying to lure his victims, and then over the years to learn how, okay, I can do it more. I can play with my food now. Let me find more strategic, ways of like, okay, let me actually get to this person's personal life. Wait, oh wait, you don't like this? Okay, you have a fear of this, you have a phobia. All right, let me do that. But yeah, I like that. This was still kind of giving a sense. But again, started where we all started at the circus. But yeah, that it was. I was really excited to see how this episode turned out.
Yeah, and then from the circus, we get Francis and his dad as they're heading home. The car kind of overheats, I'm assuming, but it's 1908. I'm assuming this is normal practice for cars to overheat back then. But they pull over to the side of the road to get water. He meets a young native girl named Rose, who it turns out again is the shop owner that we see Charlotte talking to, that we kind of was wondering, like, why is she responding this way to Charlotte? Like, it was a very interesting interaction they had in the prior episode, but here we get to see a younger version of her, and we get to see her and Francis develop a friendship. And then one day, Francis decides to wander off in the woods on its own, and this is where the old man comes back to attempt to attack him. Before I get you all's thoughts about this whole attack scene and how this plays out, I found it very interesting that once we see the old man chase after him, after we see the old man bend and we see the old man run with his limbs, it is very reminiscent of chapter 2 when Pennywise went into his actual form and attempted to eat the children. And here we see him trying to eat Mike, and then he's hit with a slingshot in his eye by Rose. And this is how you can tell it's Pennywise, because the moment he starts bleeding, it floats. What did you think, Mike, just of this big reveal that this old man here, if you had a doubt about it, it definitely is Pennywise, but also just the way he went after Francis, how Rose saved him, and then for Rose to say, once we're out of the forest, we're safe. He's not coming out of there.
Yeah, I think it was going back to this animalistic, alien form that you're going back to in terms of his roots and his first time. Like, okay, all right, I couldn't get the kill this time, or like he got away. Let me just screw it. Let me just go and go into my true form, or at least close to it, right? To chase him. But again, it's similar to what he did in it chapter 1 and 2. Just in a more demented form, and it changes his size and stuff like that. Again, I think it's gonna also show in terms of how from it chapter 2, in terms of how the Native American community excuse me, I say committee, I said community.
You said community. You said,
yeah.
If you said committee, I would have laughed.
But I'm like, but technically they had a committee at the end because they were voting like, hey, we have to. So technically, yeah, but community basically where they had reservations were also sacred and protected to a point where he can only be in the woods. He can't come out in the wide open. Why? And that wasn't really revealed, but at least it showed that again, when it comes to Native people and people of color, we have tied to the spiritual realm. than our less melanated counterparts, and that comes in handy. And when we're fighting out demons and demonic forces,
or
in the name of
vampires
Jesus.
that happen to pop out of nowhere.
Right, in the name of the Lord,
One
Amen.
or the other. Hey, look, you stole the question I was going to ask of Maya, and that was about the spiritual element here that we see with Pennywise monster as he's chasing this kid. And the moment they come out the woods, that's what I was wondering. Is it because they're on sacred land when they come out the woods that he could not proceed after that? And what did you think about the way that is shown here?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking, because I was like, this is very odd. He, especially having seen him in the It movies, right? Knowing that he can go into like multiple places. I love the fact that instantly between him and what's my favorite's name? Rich. Between Rose, sorry, and Rich, I'm like the cultural aspect, the spiritual
Yes.
aspect is being played really, really hard in this episode. And so I thought to myself, like, okay, yeah, that's crazy. We've seen him in other places. Why is it that he can't come here? And I do think it is because the land is sacred. And again, like, Mike said, those of us of the melanated pack, we tend to have more alignment with the sacred and the spiritual. So yeah, definitely like that, and interested to see like how they play off of it if they go a little bit deeper into it in the remaining of the season.
Exactly. We're going to stay right here because I want to focus on Rose's storyline in this story, especially, and the general, how they interconnect with one another. As the following time we see Rose is at this committee meeting. See my committee meeting that they're having, and here they're discussing the army possibly digging on sacred land here. And then we get Rose's nephew who shows up, and he brings up to her, hey, they found the car from 1935 on the land. They're getting too close. So it's clearly evident here that Rose and her family know that this thing is around and know this things exist. Like they're possibly a protector of it coming out into the open here.
Yeah.
What do you think? And I'm gonna go back to you, Amaya, right here with this one. What do you think right here when this meeting happens? This conversation with her nephew that kind of reveals that hey, she knows this thing exists, and she clearly goes into protective mode and saying we can't do anything until we find out exactly what they're looking to do.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I was thinking to myself, even back to the woods, right? She's not afraid, right? She's not afraid. She
Mhm.
instantly decides, like she see, she didn't go into the woods. Smart girl, right? So smart girl. Not sure why Frank decided that after she's saying come back, he should keep going, but she doesn't go into the woods, and she's ready, because she sees Frank coming back, and she's not afraid. She's like, okay. It feels very reminiscent of like I've been here before. I know what to do. And so then we see
Yeah.
the transition to her at the committee meeting, and she's like, and I'm in my head, I'm kind of wondering, like, what does she think they're doing, right? Because
Mhm.
if now they found this vehicle, they found these bodies, like it seems they're intentionally digging up the soil in order to find. You can't listen if you're really trying to lay pipe, right, and not in the funnest way possible. There are way too many holes. There are way
Wow.
too many holes going on around here that aren't aligned with how what I think pipe laying should look like. Again, no pun intended. But yeah, so I thought it was very interesting. She is being protective. I think somehow along the line during the season,
Yeah.
he's going to go and do what he wants anyway, him and his friends. But I do think that as for now, she's protecting him to say like, hey, I know things you don't. And even though you know some things that we've shared with you, you still don't know everything. You need to
Yeah.
listen to me. And I was very surprised to see that she wants to do things the right way in terms of the cease and desist. So I
Yeah.
thought that was an interesting part to it as well.
Yeah. I think a very interesting dynamic of it is as we find out later on when it's revealed that the boy is the general is Francis, and the boy when he goes to her shop to visit
Hmm.
Rose. And here he has the best conversation that lets you possibly know why she doesn't think he has ill intentions. because he tells her, I can't remember a thing about this place since I left here. I didn't start getting my memory back until I came back here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I know you know the book. I know you know the two movies. That is a very important element of the movies with the Losers Club is about remembering once you leave Derry. Just what did you think about this setup when the General and Rose are having this conversation and the moment he brings up, I didn't remember anything about this place until I got back here. And now all these memories are now coming back, including a very quick flashback that we get of them as children again and him telling her, hey, I don't want you to forget me. I don't want you to forget this summer. And even as a little girl, she says, this place has a tendency to make people forget it exists once they
Right.
leave here.
Yeah, for one, I mean, I like again, it's covering over a spiritual context to it too, of like where sins and stuff that might not go away, but they're always lingering in some aspect. If you don't actually fully
Mhm.
deal with them, or demons or trauma, whatever. Is that it's always has a way of suppressing itself, but doesn't mean
Mhm.
necessarily going away unless you actually deal it and combat it face on. And which goes into also the complex of the adults who are there, where it's like, okay, as you get older, you start to forget, but yet you still know there's something lingering about this place that you
Mhm.
now intentionally try not to acknowledge because it's going to remind you of something you are trying to forget from your childhood. And then now that we've seen that the history of 1908, again, this is at least at this point two or three generations, about two generations or so, that were that at least now has been complacent to this whole society in Derry, to condition themselves,
Mhm.
to know what's going on and what not to do, whatever. Even deep down inside, they truly don't know what's the issue or what it is, and in some of them, in case they do know and they don't want to acknowledge it, the reality of what's
Mm.
the entity that's actually here. And again, I thought it was crazy just how they kind of build off of that. And I'm intrigued to see this being episode 3, what they do to explore more of that, if the plans of having multiple seasons and we actually have a full season where we're in 1908, that will be interesting. But again, I think there was a reason, we're seeing that that it's the same character who's the general.
Yeah.
And I like that because again, it add more complexity to it. We think this general is just some regular general that just hazing black people in the military. And But no, he has he has some stake in this whole thing.
Oh, you can say it in another way, Mike. See, he likes colored people.
No, I'm
Clearly,
not
it does
doing
he
this
doesn't
Yeah.
shit
hate black
though.
people. He likes colored people.
I'm
Yes.
not doing
You've
this.
been
But
invited
I'm
to
not.
you've been invited to cookout, but I guess it's not called cookout, but a picnic this
No,
time.
no,
No, the
no.
last time the non-melanated folks threw the Native Americans a picnic, it ended up being a massacre that we celebrate every November. I don't think
Exactly.
Yeah,
that that's the goal is to have that type of picnic at all. But
yeah, not at all. But I,
I'll
I like
ask
that they're
you.
giving us more
There you
depth
go.
to his
Yeah.
character, though, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, about that's what I wanted to mainly ask you is just what do you think about just the the time jumps that we're getting with just these two characters? And again, it's adding a different layer of complexity to the story that I didn't expect to see from this. I thought maybe they would stick mainly with the kids, possibly stick with the major and Dick a little bit more, just because those are two major characters of the saga. But here we're getting a deep storyline between the general and Rose here. And just what did you think about that as a creative choice that they would even want to spend that much time explaining this? Because it does add, as you might say, another spiritual element to this show with the Native Americans here.
Well, I think that honestly, it could be that it's kind of history repeating itself in terms of, right,
Mm,
like if you have this group of kids currently in it, and then you have these adults, Rose who's like in it but not in it, and Frank who's completely removed until he's back. So it's like that memory dump, right? You have those two sets where there could be other people that Rose and Frank have encountered that also have that memory, you know, like twisted kind of space or situation. And so for me, it's interesting to see it because I like to know that the general is not just like he just has no idea, but it's like he has some idea. He doesn't know why he's really here, or he doesn't know why he's being pulled, but he is, right? And like and Mike was saying, in terms of spirituality, those negative and those positive spirits will pull at you, right? And I think right now we know that obviously Rose is on the positive side, and Frank is kind of he's not sure. He's thinking in a war state of mind, unlike, you know, like somebody else I currently know whose name won't be mentioned, but tends to rhyme with Frump. Nonetheless, it seems like he's like focused on winning the war, right? He's focused on getting to this thing, even though he actually knows the danger right behind this. And we have Hallorann, who talks to him later on in the episode, but he's aware. So it's very I want to see like if they're going to give us more, but also I'm just glad that he has background that we can now kind of grasp onto to see how he develops as a character.
Exactly. It's not a one note character anymore. That's the best way to put it. Now, if you've been with Big Go Bell, you know how we, especially me and Amaya, do our reviews here. We're going to jump around because that's the best way to do this type of show. So the next thing and the next topic of the show I want to talk about is a very quick scene, and that is between Hank and the sheriff in the jailhouse. As here it is revealed, it kind of felt at first like the sheriff was setting Hank up, but then a big truth is revealed that Hank was lying about his alibi the entire time, and that he was not home in his bed. So what did you all think? And first, I'm going to start with you first, Mike. What did you think about the reveal that Hank was not at home and that Hank won't say where he was at?
I think he's sleeping with the white woman. And that's why she knew who the grandmother was.
Damn it. Yes,
you know
that
what?
makes perfectly good sense.
What? I'm not doing this with you today, Mike.
I mean, I just got how she knew who the grandmother was the whole time. Hey, go.
You know what?
Why you bang on the door? You need to get out of here. Yeah, all right, tell your grandmother. How you know my grandmother?
I'm not doing this.
Come on. And then now messing with a white woman in the 60s. No.
Yes, that would be something to keep away from the police.
This is true. This is very true.
They're both widows.
Yeah, they are both widows. That is, you know, what?
Widows need love too.
That could actually be the connection there that I did not expect us to come to that conclusion.
That's Mike's conclusion.
What were your thoughts about it, Amaya?
I don't know. For a second, I still thought that the sheriff was setting him up, you know. And then when he was like, "Oh, I prefer embassy golds," or whatever he said, the cigarettes, and then the sheriff pulled the pack out, and I was like, "This is a little too convenient." Like, is that how he know exactly? Okay, like Hank, what's happening right now? Because I don't want to be caught up in this situation. I'm trying to root for you. You know, we were all rooting for you. I had a power moment. Yeah, I don't know what their storyline is going, but like I'm with Mike in terms of like what secret does he have that is worth remaining in jail for? Because essentially that's what it's gonna be. Is that like you're here, you weren't home, and what does grandma know? Or doesn't
could
know?
It be so simple that you're hiding a white woman? And or if you dig deeper, what else possibly could you be hiding that they can't know about? Keep in mind, he's only worrying about the police knowing about it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking gambling. I was thinking maybe he runs the moonshine joint. I mean, Mike, I gotta like my brain kind of went to a lot of different places, but I don't necessarily. I think, like Mike said, the biggest one obviously would be dating or sleeping with a white woman. But I don't know if it will be that simple, and I don't know if I want it to be that simple, honestly.
I thought it's I still think it's a possibility that he's doing some type of work with the army, and even in his dangered state, he can't say what it is.
Yeah, but also like the fact that not
But it
saying
could also
what,
be a white woman. It could be a white woman.
yeah, and also the fact that the daughters are keep continually butting heads with each other.
Yeah.
They just we've seen this trope before. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't want it to be that simple. I'm just like, let me pull a Dr. Umar here. And I say he's in jail because he's bunny hopping. I can easily say that. It's a horror series. But
I beg your pardon. I beg your highest pardon.
but no, I'm not gonna go down that route. But I literally just call him like, you know what? How did the grandma we don't see it's only episode 3. How does she know the grandmother?
That is something I brought up last episode. Well, to even threaten that, you would really have to know the grandmother. And maybe that could be it. Because we do see at the end, first we see Hank doesn't want to say what it is, but as the sheriff's walking away, he does tell the sheriff, I need you to come back. Like he's now willing to say what it is. And I wonder,
I don't think so.
Simple?
I think I think he's just reiterating that I didn't do it. I might not be able to tell you what I was doing, but that particular thing I didn't do.
That's going to be an interesting part then. What is this big secret that Hank is holding back? Because if it's as simple as him being with Lily's mom, I think it will lead all of us to be a tad bit disappointed, because it just seems like such an obvious way to go. Granted, white women, black men. If this was if they were in the South, yes, I can understand that. But the way that we've seen semi-racism in Derry, we haven't seen the overt racism in Derry. I don't know if that would be something I would be willing to go to jail for.
Right.
Like in the South, you would go to jail for it because they're going to kill you if they find out you did that. But I don't think that's the case in Derry. But then what's the bigger secret that he's holding out here? And I think that's going to be the interesting part with Hank here. Next up, we're going to talk about Leroy, Russo, and Dick Hallorann here. As first, we are introduced to them in this episode as the general decides that Dick needs to be out in the field to get more information. As first, his colonel came in and told him they dug throughout the entire car. There's nothing in the car they can find, but they bring up the time period that the car existed in, and that it was part of a massacre in 1935, which would have been, again, 27 years after 1908 of everything happening. And him bringing it up, the guy was killed in the car because the entity was in him and they saw it. So again, this is another reveal that they know exactly what this thing is, and they have stories of it, because as is pointed out before already by the general, once you leave Derry, you don't remember what happened in Derry. But then that means someone in Derry has kept records of everything that's happened here, and they're passing that information on to the army here, and that's how they know this information here. But with that thought, they decide to get Dick to go out in the field, and they have Leroy and Russo take him to the field. And here we get possibly one of the biggest reveals of this episode here, as they're going on this plane ride, as they call Dick a human compass. He ends up getting into Pennywise's lair and getting into his mind, and we quickly see as he looks in and sees Pennywise's eyes, and they glow yellow, but we also see an outline of Pennywise here also as he goes to attack Dick, and Dick can see people floating around him. Before we get to the second part of it, just Mike, what did you think about that reveal there of seeing Dick getting to that lair out of it with his mind, and then Pennywise saying, "What are you doing here?"
I thought it was cool, just again, just combining The Shining, to it and Pennywise and stuff. It, we it's the same universe, but you don't actually get legit to character really interacting, heavily like this. So this was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like we already know the fate of Dick and everything, it's just like, but still just to know like he at least interacted face to face, and Pennywise have seen him as well. And again, I like how they keep using the emphasis on his eyes. 'Cause again,
Yeah.
that's also a way of uh hypnotizing people and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you also realize that if I was easy, it was easy for me to take you out. I would have. It's like there's something off about you, to from Pennywise's end. Like, who are
Yeah.
you? How did you get here? That's what and that's intriguing to him. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
what? So that's again competition. He likes it. So that's that's where I like that he had that moment. It's like, later it's like, General, he saw us. I think something bad's gonna happen. So I think it'd be again intriguing to see how that goes. But again, now seeing Dick in his full, capacity in terms of as a character, and then it ties to The Shining and everything, and just you're seeing that, him actively, trying to find, the identity and everything, and it's like clear as day. We know they're trying to find Pennywise, even how dumb it might be, but still, yeah, they
Well, let
found
me
him.
ask you a quick follow up. Then, what did you think about Pennywise almost making him kill himself? Because we know when he's turning the thing in the plane, he thinks he's doing something completely different, and that's because Pennywise is in his mind. What did you think about that portion of the setup by Pennywise?
Well, it just tying up loose ends. Like, if you able to find my stuff, I don't know who you are, whatever. So I'm gonna take you out now, right?
Yeah.
And if I cannot physically get you here, I'm going to possess you. To take yourself out of the equation. But again, Leroy was able to step in there, and again, I really like their these two dynamic. Again,
Yeah.
it's personal and it's realistic in those situations. And what I'm not going to jump the gun, in terms of that moment with them later on the
Yeah.
episode, but I really enjoyed that. Again, it was a pivotal moment. All right, you scratch my back, I scratch yours,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And Maya, I'm going to ask you a different question. Same character, but what happened later on after they get out the plane? The conversation between the general and Dick when they're talking about the entity. First, the general asks him, "So you saw the entity?" And he said, "No, he saw us."
Mm-hmm.
And then he brings up, maybe we shouldn't be seeing. He wasn't so. First, he says he wasn't supposed to see us. Maybe we need to stop pursuing him. What do you think
Yeah.
about? We automatically understand Dick is fearful about what's going on here, and he
Mm-hmm.
knows that this is not a good idea here, and he tries to persuade the general from pursuing this any further. What do you think about that flip that happens there for Dick?
I mean, I think that he wasn't 100% sure in terms of he didn't know what they were looking for, right? Knowing that you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for an entity, but not knowing whether that entity is positive or negative, right? If it's good or if it's evil.
Yeah.
I don't think he understood the magnitude, right? Because we know that he's just going based off what he can feel. But having the slingshot, right? And just like tying that whole thing into him being to touch something that was used to actually inflict pain on Pennywise, that's something that was like literally right next to him. For me, that was like, oh, this is way more than I bargained for. This is not what I signed up for, right? I think if it has to do with, if he has to choose life or death, he's obviously, just like any one of us, we're going to choose life. And so him having that moment, not just Pennywise seeing him and seeing them, but Pennywise being able to control him so much so that he almost killed himself. He knows that it's not a good place for him to be, and that they should stop looking because, and in my head, when he said something as bad is going to happen, I'm thinking like, how far are they away from Derry that they don't know about Maddie? They don't know about the other kids that just got murdered. Like, how are these things not like linking for
Intertwined
them?
with each other.
Yeah, but I think that will possibly come later, if at all, but like I said, now that he's been able, a lot of times when people, especially people who are of the positive realm, who are looking for things, right? if you get seen by evil spirit, it's never a good thing. Once that evil spirit can see you, it's never a good thing. And so now he's in jeopardy, right? Like, and
yeah,
who knows what else?
yeah, you're on his radar now. So he
Yeah.
knows that you're a threat because you can even the point you can get to where you got to, that means you're a threat. And at that point, as Mike said perfectly, I gotta eliminate the threat. You cannot be around. But the next scene that we get between Leroy and Dick is at the dinner table, which at this point, when Charlotte's at this table, you just know you about to get something. But
Yeah.
here it is revealed that one, that Charlotte was a school teacher before coming to Derry. She cannot get a job as a school teacher in Derry. Not only that, she was an activist. As we brought up before, we wondered what was the issue at Strip Point. I'm not saying that word right, but you know what town I'm talking about. And what was the issue there? And it's because she was an activist, and that Leroy does not want her to be an activist because how it reflects on his career. So the second part I'm gonna say for Mike. The first part I'm gonna ask you, Amaya. What do you just think about that interaction between her, Dick, and Leroy at that dinner table?
Firstly, that was not on my bingo card, right? Them having dinner I did not see that coming. It felt, I won't say it felt off. It just felt like a nice surprise. But seeing them at the dinner table and even just Dick asking those questions of her, like getting to know a little bit about her. Perhaps he knew some things anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because, just at the overall tone, he's very welcoming. He's, and being able to share more about herself so that we could understand like what was happening in Shreveport, right? And so I do think it's very interesting, but not surprising, right? In terms of a Black man in the military at that moment in time, yeah, I could absolutely see how that would affect him being able to rank up, but also like the movement is necessary and powerful, right? So I thought that was interesting. And then again, one of my favorite parts in terms of like Dick having that moment with Leroy, he's like, well, where's your son? And almost instantly I was thinking, like, does he know something is gonna happen versus versus Leroy not telling him about his son at all and him just having that sense. So I thought that was dope. But I also loved the compliments about the meal, and it just felt very wholesome. It felt very much like a well-needed break from all of what we experienced in the first two episodes.
The trauma
so
first two episodes. And Mike, I'm going to ask you about the conversation on the porch. Maya kind of hinted towards it. As the moment they get to that porch and get to talking, the first thing Leroy says, I never told you I had a son. And then he brings up the feeling I had when you asked me that question. I've only felt that one time before. The first time I felt it was when I was attacked. He said, you were there when I was attacked. And then he tells him, stop getting in my head. First, it lets you know that Leroy can literally feel when Dick is getting into his head.
Pause.
I just realized what I was, But when Dick is getting into Leroy's head, he can feel him messing with his mind. But then Dick reassures him, don't worry about it. It won't happen again. And he reveals to Leroy, when most people are in situations where they're about to die, they think about family, they think about other things. He said, your mind thinks strategically about stuff. Letting Leroy know, technically, I'm a little bit afraid of the way you think for me to ever want to be in your head again. What do you think about that whole scene on that porch between them two?
I think, if this was DC, he'd be a perfect candidate for a Green Lantern because he has no fear. And Lilly, it's just like when he said, listen, people have a capacity of fear that I sense, and I don't see that in you at all. And that just tells me you're a person I'm not supposed to fuck with, and but the fact that you saved my life means I need to keep you around, that you stick beside you. And I was like, that was the most realest conversation. I guess this whole season that like, listen, there's some crazy stuff happening in this damn town, especially in the military and everything. And again, it's like, you made it. You're a real one. Now it's like, all right, I gotta keep you around, see what and then you're a unique, person. The fact that like I can sense like how you think strategically and everything like that. Again, this is intellectual family, but even then with the son, I guarantee you he knows what's going to happen to his son, and then that's why even then I also noticed it too. Like he didn't say he had a son. Like now he could just say, "Oh yeah, you have family, whatever," but you didn't know you had a daughter, whatever. But I thought it was good. That was a good conversation to have out of the porch and stuff. But it was a real scene where they acknowledge and respect each other. Like, okay, obviously there's something about you I don't know. You being this human compass who has this ties, to leadership in the military.
Yep.
At the same time, while you save my life, it's like I sense people, who are the same in terms of them having fear. You're different. It's like I need to be around you, at least for the time that I'm in this story. So
I mean, if we think about it, these are two at a time where this does not happen. These are two black men who have been elevated in their positions in the army. Both of them getting special privileges that don't exist for black people.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it with Dick when the moment the general said, "Hey, anything you need, let me know," and Dick immediately said, "Yep, I need a place for the soldiers to go, the black soldiers to go to, because where we're at now is not right." And a general immediately like, "I'll get on that immediately." I think that is possibly where they probably develop even more of a relationship. I'm not gonna call it friendship yet, but a relationship, because at that, if he's fighting for that, he's fighting for the major to get it also. Because clearly they still keeping the blacks and the whites separate from one another here. And that's why they need a separate place. So I think that's that relationship. And plus, everybody knows it, or we know it. When it's one of us there and we see another one, we tend to get along with one another. Because this ain't the time where we need to be separate.
Yes.
And I think, again, that's another feeling we get here. Again, I paid a lot of attention to in the first episode. It was very much highlighted that the major was the only one staying in Derry. Everybody else was staying on the base. So, like, I think that's the disconnect there, and that's why someone like Dick could come around. Down to the way Leroy looked when his white neighbors was staring at him walking on the opposite side of the street when Dick was in his house. So, I mean, like, that's another different element that's going to be brought up. But lastly up of the episode is the children, the best parts of the episode. As first we're introduced back to Lilly as her mom goes to pick her up from Juniper Hill. And here we get Lilly as she's talking to a housekeeper custodian who the guy who runs it says she became really close with. And she has told this person everything that really happened. But this person gives Lilly the reassurance she needs and says, if you said it happened, I believe you that it happened. So, Mom, I'm going to ask you this. What would you just think about that reopening to Lilly here, as she finally has an adult who actually believes her? And you see the empowerment that comes along with this adult believing her.
I mean, well, she needs it, right? Like, she needs it. Her mom doesn't believe her. The sheriff manipulated her. People back in the town think she's crazy. Ronnie is mad at her. She absolutely needs somebody on her side, And I'm wondering if there is going to be like a relationship that develops over time with this character. So I'm interested to see where that will go. But I was happy to see that she found some sort of solace being in that place where, look, even in the opening scene with her, it's like the guy is like, listen, if she has another episode, we need to up her medication, right? Like, to me, that in itself is saying, like, I'd rather just drug her versus like investigating or helping or whatever the case is. So I'm glad that she found somebody that, and especially a woman, because that nurturing right, and building of confidence is very necessary. So
I think that is a highly important element. Mike, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a different question here as we get to the next scene with Ronnie, as Ronnie gets to the school and kids being kids have wrote murderous things about her dad on her locker here. But once she gets it off about the conversation her and Lilly have in the bathroom, as Lilly finally reveals, hey, I'm willing to say exactly what happened. So everyone will know the truth, but because of where I'm coming from, they're still not going to possibly believe me. What did you think about that setup? Because I think you brought it up last episode that now that she's gone back to the place, who will believe her anyway?
Yeah, I was ready for her to beat her ass in the bathroom, but I was just like, I just saying, you just like, okay, well, now that's it. Now I'm like, okay, now I'll tell the police. It's like, it's like it makes no sense. But I felt with the fact that now just they come to agreement, just saying what's going on, because now she had her experience with the pickles and in aisle 5, and it's like it's she both of them now it's like are come to the sense that we cannot do this by ourselves, we need help. But then it's getting back to the whole, okay, here's the children gang, from the Pennywise standpoint. Like, okay, so I'm not at this point, I'm not going to get easily attached. Again, all I know at this moment, only one black person is surviving that group as of right now that I know of. But again, it's like, but yet there's also stuff that I'm not gonna jump into that, but it was like hinting of what with the other girl and what's it, the kid, I forgot his name, who's the father
Rich?
of the black kid.
Oh my God! You
Oh,
just called him black
William.
Leroy?
Yes,
Okay.
not Leroy. Who's the son of
William.
Leroy's son.
William.
Yes. Yeah, they're getting together, but I'm just like, all right, I've seen this episode before at the same location. Like, it just,
Yeah.
Oh, now it's 2 black people here, so now we're good. Like, so it's like,
Hey, hold on.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to, again, the writers of It, Welcome to Derry, who knows how to use an Easter egg. First, we get from the sheriff when he brings up to Hank, do you want to end up in Shawshank? Everybody knows what that is. Juniper
Yes.
Hill, which has been mentioned multiple times, is literally, I know Mike may remember, and I think Amaya may remember, that the guy who they framed for the killing that Pennywise is doing in the original It book escapes from Juniper Hill. Along with Juniper Hill being in Needful Things, in Gerald's Game, it's in the Dark Half, in multiple Stephen King books. This is always the same time that people get put into.
Famous.
Yeah. So like it's good to see these type of things and to expound upon them, because now we understand Juniper Hill also held children, which we did not know that before everything that happens here. But next up, we get Ronnie and Lilly, who come up with a plan like, hey, maybe the way to get him is to take a picture so people will believe us. And they say, who could we find who could develop these pictures? Because if we took it to an adult, they would disappear. And that's the reintroduction to William and Rich as they're sitting at the diner, which this is why it can't be a white woman, Mike. 1962, this little black boy is sitting at a diner eating food with other white. Matter of fact, 2 people of color are sitting at a diner eating food in 1962, and no one said anything to them. So you never know. Granted, maybe it's something different with Lilly's mom that we have not talked about or discovered yet. But this is a very interesting thing here. But they go to pick up William, find out he can develop, and then they come up with the plan that, hey, we're just going to have a seance after Rich says that his family told him a story from a priest about how to get demons or how to get evil spirits out. It's an amazing thing to bring up in a show like this, to show the history of things of this nature here. But one, what did you all just think about? And I'll start first with you, Mike. What did you just think about this whole conversation about Ronnie and Lilly going to get William, about Rich telling them, like, hey, I have a way that we can get spirits and trap them so then we could take pictures of them?
Yeah, I thought he was full of it. But also just I didn't see this, character being very smart or anything like that. But also, like, we've seen Pennywise, move in human form and to like, manipulate people, even children, to be like, that one said friend that leads you down this dark tunnel, and then all of a sudden they disappear because that was Pennywise.
Mhm.
But I thought, okay, maybe he some way infiltrated this the school, whatever. But also, have you noticed this consistent thing with the girl that he likes, who is part of the I keep joking about
March,
the Peppermint Twin gang. But
the patty cake
Patty
gang.
cakes.
Patty Cake gang. Um, is that every time that he daydreaming about her and like that shot or walking by the hallway, there's always a light that's her eyes, and
Makes her
also, and
eyes
I'm not trying,
yellow.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's yellow, and I'm not trying to
Mhm.
make fun of the young lady's face or anything, but her nose, it's kind of like round to the point that if all you need to do is make her do a creepy animated smile, it can look like somewhat
I'll, I'll,
clownish.
I'll,
But
I'll
but I
beat you
don't
to
know,
the
it's a
punch a little
stretch.
bit.
I'm just
No, no, no,
saying.
no. I'll beat you to the punch a little bit here. Did you not notice to me that Marge's face shape seemed very similar to the little girl in 1908 who had the Pennywise makeup on her face?
Wait,
As we
who?
quickly pan out of Francis going off with his dad, it's a little girl in a clown costume, but she literally has the same exact paint on her face that Pennywise has.
Yes.
That's why I noticed. I'm like, that looks a lot like that could be Marge. So you gotta wonder, is this something else? Marge always cracks jokes. What does Pennywise always do? Crack jokes. Well, so
Yes.
maybe there
Right.
is something there with all of that. So not gonna say you're wrong about that. I think it is some level there of something to pay attention to. But finally, we get to the seance. As they say, Rich is just repeating the same thing over and over again because kids don't know what seances are. That's kind of what you do
Yeah.
there. But after Rich gets up and admits that it wasn't someone who told him, it's someone who told my cousin, then my cousin told my other cousin, then my other cousin told me. This is what happened here. And they all get up to leave. And then Ronnie asks William, do you just not believe me? He says, I believe you believe, which is gaslighting 101. I believe you believe it happened, but that don't mean I believe it happened. But as the girls are going away on their bikes and then the boys follow, we see the statues move, we see the earth move, and then we see all the monsters come out as they begin to attack the children. And we get a beautiful scene here, beautiful, very much Stranger Things like scene here, as all the kids with this camera going around taking pictures of these entities as they're floating around everywhere possible. Then we get William who gets trapped by one of the entities who jumps on his back, and then he falls on the ground, and then he ends up by a crypt. And just as this thing is going by, we think it's going to attack him. He takes a picture of it, then it stops with him. So immediately I thought he was possessed or the thing had took him at that point. But
We all
then
did.
we see him come out of there as all the rest of the kids escape, wondering where he's at. And then he escapes with them. And then we get to the black room as they break into the school to develop the pictures. What do you all just think about that big action scene they did with the seance of these kids running away from all these floating entities around them? First, start with you first, Amaya. What did you just think about that scene as a whole?
Well, I like the consistency, right? Because we heard
Mhm.
this phrase, I believe that you believe previously in like episode 1, right? When
Yep.
when
Mhm.
when the story is being told and they're like, "Oh, you don't believe me." So I love the consistency because it brings that airy feeling to the viewer. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
it gives you that like, "Oh my God, like it's happening again. What could it possibly be?" kind of feeling. But
Mhm.
I love that. First of all, I absolutely love Rich. You know what I mean? Like the whole accent, the whole
Yeah.
seance, everything is, you know what I mean, to the T. He's like, my abuelita, was a babalao. And I'm like, yo, who is this kid? And it's super cool to see them really dig into the spirituality again in this
Yeah.
episode here in this part. And we all know that when it comes to like seances and spiritual I don't know, like prayers or callings of spirits forth, it's really about the belief, right? The belief is how you get that thing, that entity to show up. And so them, between Ronnie and Lily's belief, it works, because Rich is there, like he says later on, man, like it's hard to make friends. You know what I mean? I like y'all. I'm just here for the friendship, the fruit roll-ups. You feel me? And having them really go through this whole, like you said, back to the cinematic Stranger Things kind of feel to it, going through. And in my head, I'm like, wow, of course, William gets left behind, right? Not intentionally, but he is left behind. And getting that picture, going back into the crib, just enough, right? Just enough to get the picture, but to still make it out, go down. And, Ronnie expressing her gratitude that he's okay and nothing's happened to him, because obviously of the things that they've already gone through, her and Lily holding hands. Like, these kids are now, it's a pack, you know what I mean? Whether they're here with us for 2 episodes or 1, they're a pack, and we'll recognize them as such. And so when they get to the high school, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, damn, we gotta get through 2 more pictures, because Rich done took 3 pictures of everybody else. Like, get to the good stuff already. But yeah, loving that they were actually able to capture the ghost.
Capture the pictures.
Loving that one picture, you do absolutely see Pennywise. And we talked about this before in terms of like, how will he show up in the form that most people know him as, right? Because people are so familiar with the clown version, or the clown personality, right? But one thing I will say is, in the back of my head, I was like, okay, you guys got the pictures, but who's really going to believe you even still, right? And for me, I think that in my head, the way I feel it planning out is William could absolutely take it to his dad, only because of that link now that he has with Dick. And so that I'm thinking about like what that looks like moving forward. Interested to see where this goes in terms of, will they share this with the sheriff, who's trying to blame Hank? Will they share it with their parents, and who will believe them, and who else does this put in danger as well? So this whole scene, brilliantly done, really great work. And I mean, like, kudos to these kids, because they're acting their asses off.
Exactly. Now, Mike, what did you think about this whole closing scene, from the chase scene to the development of the pictures to the pictures of Pennywise for the kids to say, look, is that a clown? Of all things to say here, what did you think about that? The way they closed this out?
Yeah, it round up being, this is like my favorite episode so far. I know it's episode 3, but this was where, like, we got a lot of Pennywise, even though we barely saw him in full form, but we saw him in different forms and stuff like that. It's getting to the lore and the building of like, no, we've seen this is a clown, what's going on here, and multiple people are seeing him at the same time, or or on the same day, whatever. So it's like it's getting revealed to both people, to different parties here, that there's another entity here. And for some people, they've been new. So it's like I did like how they able to get the pictures and stuff. Definitely Stranger Things level thing. I thought that sequence, yes, you could say chasing, whatever, like with the whole ghosts, chasing them, whatever. It's kind of giving a little bit maybe of Disney, whatever. But I was like, aside from all the creepiness, but I'm like, you did have a Jesus statue turn around and have a killer clown smile, and I was like, I'm not gonna forget about that. It's just like, at a cemetery, with that, I was like, oh my god, So it's
it was I understand. But that's why I love this scene here. To me, the Disney-esque of the scene is what makes it fun, because what we have to remember, throughout the sickness of the It movies, it is some very sweet moments with these kids as they're trying to figure out exactly what's coming after them. I think that's what makes the It saga so interesting, is the children. and we get the innocence of it, where they're absolutely terrified. These are monsters. Not only are these entities coming at them, these are dead people, dead friends that are coming after these kids here. And just the way it's shot, the way it's shown here, very much action packed, but it's also a sense of joyfulness, which is a weird word to use here, that is shown on screen as these kids are going away from these things. And then it quickly flips into absolute terror the moment Mike gets lost. And you're wondering exactly what's going to happen here. And then you get right back to the joy of it all when they're all in this dark room developing these pictures, and then they get to see that everything we did worked. I mean, now we got to think about who, as Amaya said, who's going to believe them. And I think it would be taking them to his dad, and then Dick seeing it. The big thing I think is going to be is Rose seeing these pictures. Because with the Native Americans, one, they know this monster exists already. So it's no hiding it at this point. I think the big reveal we're looking for is how many of these people in this town know this monster exists.
Yeah.
Because as the guy said, like in 1935, the murders happened in the car because the entity in one of its many forms. So they already openly admitting they know this thing can transform into anything. And that's what led to the murders. So you're wondering, when those kids were running away and no one in the town interjected, was it because they weren't sure why the kids were doing it? Could have been fear that maybe he's possessing the kids and we don't want no parts of that. Like it's giving a very Nightmare on Elm Street type of vibe when the parents knew exactly who Freddy Krueger was, but they tried to keep it completely secret from everyone else. Maybe it's something of that level. But again, that's what makes this show so good, is because it leaves these questions, but then they answer them immediately.
Yes.
For Mike to talk about last episode, man, I hope we get an origin story. I don't think it'll happen this season, but it will. Maybe we should get one, and they give it to you in the next episode. They're showing that they're not here to waste time with it. They understand the expediency of a story, and it's working wonders so far after 3 episodes. So, folks, final thoughts on it. Welcome to Derry, episode 3, Mike.
This is my favorite episode so far. And I like how the plot thickens, in terms of Pennywise being more present and playing in again a very strategic way. Definitely love, the fact that they're also connecting it more, going back to 1908 with characters that we're currently following, like the General, and introducing new characters from past, now, present day, and seeing how deeply involved again Pennywise is to Derry. And again, it's very interesting. Where it's like it's almost become like a weird anthology crossover episode, even though you stay very focused on the It and Pennywise story. But the fact also you got things of The Shining, you get other Easter eggs of other stuff too, just by mere existence, but no distraction in terms of distracting you from the main point of this show. But then with that, it also brings curiosity, like, man, how deep is this? Even and where I guess in certain Stephen King some movies, wherever they might fail, I guess it would probably be better if they were put into a series, because you got more time fleshed out, and actually, to let stuff breathe, and we can kind of dive into things more than we have in a 2-hour movie, and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. Again, Stephen King fan here, we're winning. So
and amazingly, it doesn't say nigger nearly as much as Stephen King novels do. Amaya, what do you think? What are your final thoughts on it? Welcome to Derry, episode 3.
For episode 3, I'm very grateful for Rich's chocolate milk mustache. I thoroughly enjoyed that, being able to smile and have a moment of lightness, which we did have multiple times in this episode. I think they're doing a great job, like I said, just building you up, really reeling you in, giving you backstory, making some of these characters in depth, like Frank and whatnot, getting to see that relationship with him and Rose. I am interested to see who the kids give the film to, how
Yeah.
how does the relationship with Dick and Leroy, how does it continue? What do the kids, what's really gonna happen in terms of Hank? Hank is still
Yeah.
locked up. Where was he? Who was he with? A lot of questions needing answers, but there's no rush, if that makes sense. Like I don't feel like there's a rush to get to those answers. I think that they will continue to answer and build and answer and build with each episode. So I'm excited to see what's next.
Exactly. I think that's what this episode here shows you why long form content is needed for certain subjects. And for it, Welcome to Derry, this works wonders because we understand there's more to come here, but yet we're fully satisfied and fulfilled by this episode here. Very action packed, the most palatable episode so far this season. Not saying the other ones weren't good, but this one was the first time you said, "Ha, no trauma, no nothing, just hard, just everything else." And you can look forward to everything you're going to get down the line. As you said, it opens up a lot of doors, a lot of questions, but they're questions that don't feel like they need an immediate answer. They're questions that's going to work themselves out over the course of however many more episodes we got this season. We know we're not even halfway through the season yet, and yet we're getting so much in episode 3. So that works wonders here. But like, comment, subscribe, audience. Let us know what you think about episode 3 of It, Welcome to Derry. Let us know what you think about the children and the pictures, and who are these pictures going to go to, and who will believe them. Let us know what you all think about Dick and Leroy and this newfound relationship, buddyship, and how is this going to work out for the remainder of the series, and what do you think about the storyline of General Shaw and Rose here, as we get to see them from children to adults, down to General Shaw telling Rose, "Hey, I want to work with you, so I don't interrupt these things that you're concerned about me interrupting," knowing that he has an ulterior motive, and her possibly also knowing it's an ulterior motive behind it. But again, this has been another recap review of It, Welcome to Derry, brought to you by the Culture Collective, fueled by, powered by Big Go Bell Media. Peace, people.